Sego Sewaguego. Good morning, everybody. Um, we are now a meeting in our council chambers on March the 9th at 9:30 in the morning. And present is Chris Miracle, Councillor, Ted Miracle, Councillor, Joshua Hill, Councillor, Stacia Loft, Councillor. Shelley Bowden is our recording secretary this morning, and MZ Miracle, my assistant, is here also. And joining us by a Zoom call this morning is the Director of Operations, Angela Miracle, and the Chief Administrative Officer, David Soulier. So the council has before you an agenda dated March the 9th, 2023. But before we begin our council meeting, I want to acknowledge all of our ladies who work for the Mohawks, the Bay of Quinte. I'd like to, on behalf of our council, express our deep gratitude for all the hard work you do to better the quality of life for our people. And you're much appreciated, not only on International Women's Day, but every day. And thank you for doing a good job for our community. I would also like to thank MZ Miracle for tidying up our council chambers and organizing things in here. You did a good job, MZ. Wasn't you? Who was it? Oh, Shelley, my apologies, Shelley. Thank you very much for tidying up the council chambers. It looks great. Thank you. So we have an agenda before you. I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? You want to open the meeting? Oh, yes, I got to open the meeting with a prayer. Apologies. Okay, in our council, we also begin our meeting with a prayer, Ohondo Gariwat Tegwa, to acknowledge our traditional prayers, but we also acknowledge the Christian belief that many of our members still have. And so I'll do both prayers. Ganjokwa Sidawan Siyos, ni Gariweso, ni Egadadi, Ohondo Gariwat Tegwa, Ungadadi wat noni hote. Agwego onska adeniwe noni ne umgwatni gora, dano yatiniwe rado ni ogwe sonha suk agwego skono agohage. Agwego unska adeniwe noni ne umgwatni gora, dano de yatiniwe rados ne yedetni stonha, ji yohunjade, ji sego yako gahwo hadyes, ako satstonsara, na eyo yohage. Agwego unska deniwe noni ne ungwat nigora dano de teniwe rados ne agwego yong hi yong waze ji wanjade agwego unska deniwe noni ne ungwat nigora dano de teniwe rados ne agwego yong hi yong waze ji garong hiade dano ono gadadi agwego ji de ji sewe waro we war G se wa no we rado ne songwaya dizo nene gasat stonsera wano so oyera eto neo donhak neongwat negora. And it translates people, listen for a short time, much business has come to pass. Everyone will bring our minds together as one and send our greetings to the people so that peace will continue for all. Everyone, we will bring our minds together as one and send our greetings to our Mother the Earth as she still goes along, giving of her own strength for us to live good lives. Everyone, we will bring our minds together as one and send our greetings to all the things that support us on the earth. Everyone, we will bring our minds together as one and send our greetings to all things that support us in the sky and heavens. And now we send our greetings and thanksgiving to the Creator, Sungwayat Dizo, the great strength of the natural world. Let this always continue in our minds. And the Christian prayer, Sungwat Niha, Negarung Hyagi de Shidarum, Ogwasanada Gondi, Sayanetsra Andawat, Jinunsere etniawan Nehohunjagi, Jonanito Negarung Hyagi, Dagyo Nego Nisaradi, Natali Wisaragi, Ungwanadrunk Neone, Donagoriosto, Ne Jion Wari Wanero, Jitegari Stonis ne Rowdy Waner Axro, Ego Ase Sawak, Nagayanetsra Nagasat Stonsra, Ne Owizonsra, Genuhoi, Awa. And in English, it's Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. We have an agenda before you this morning. And today is the first day that we are live streaming the council meetings, and we hope that it goes well. It's our first attempt at this. And so we have an agenda before the council, and I would like a motion from the council to adopt the agenda if there is no additional emergency items. There is one additional item that came in by email this morning. It's a letter from Kent Elson that he'd like us to send to the government concerning the outstanding issues with the OFNPA. And they're recommending the signing of a one-year agreement till the end of March. So I just sent that around this morning. So I'd like a motion of council concerning that letter. Okay, is there anything else that needs to be added to the agenda on an emergency basis? If not, could we have a motion to adopt the agenda for March the 9th?
Just a point of clarification, Chief. For the letter requested by Kent Elson, would we move that to our private agenda?
We can, we'll raise it during that time.
Chief,
Yes?
if we accept the agenda, does that mean we accept 4 or 5 items going in private? I have a question.
Well, the discussion is in private, but the decision is recorded in the public minutes because there may be a confidential nature to it, but the decision will be in the public minutes.
Thank you.
If the council makes a decision.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to go in private, to open the meeting and adopt the agenda?
I move.
Moved by Stacia. Is there a seconder?
We have 2 agendas on it. One's proposed and the other's, is it the proposed agenda that we're accepting? Okay, yeah, I'll second it.
It's the agenda that's been put before you
I have
in your
2.
hard
You
drive.
don't have yours, I got 2. That's all.
Okay, and I put some time frames on the agenda so we don't get bogged down in a lot of it.
Okay.
So we will have now the meeting, that motion is carried if there's no opposition. Anybody opposed to adopting the agenda? Seeing none, the motion is carried. We will have the minutes of February the 15th. And I see corrections have already been circulated. They're highlighted in red, and I agree with those corrections. I presume, Stacia, they're your corrections?
They are.
Okay. Does the council have any other corrections? Chris?
I'm good, Chief.
Josh? Can I have a motion then to adopt the minutes of February the 15th, 2023 as corrected? Who will move?
I'll move.
Moved by Ted. Is there a seconder? Josh? Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are adopted. Is there any business arising from the minutes?
There's one item, Chief. On motion number 17, this was a meeting to be scheduled with the town of Deseronto regarding the Water Regulations Board on March 7th.
Yes.
That was a couple of days ago. So just wondering if that meeting took place?
No, it didn't. It will have to be rescheduled. It was very late in the day, and there were other meetings that were overlapping. And so Todd and David, they requested a meeting in person. David was unable to attend in person, so we will schedule another date. I have proposed some dates next week to Todd, and he'll be following up with the town. Any other question? Any other business arising from the minutes? None?
I think that's it from my
Okay.
perspective.
So we will let you know when the Deseronto Water and Sewer Board meeting is. Okay. Look at your meeting dates, list of meetings. So the Chiefs Committee on Health had the forum last week. I went to it. They cover the expenses and travel and meals because I was a presenter on long-term care at the Chiefs Health Forum, but also there was, the first day of it was a meeting on the distinct based Indigenous health legislation that's being proposed by the government. While the legislation is not yet drafted, there was a discussion about what we felt that should be in that law. For many, many years, First Nations have argued that there is a human right and a treaty right in Treaty 6 to health. That may be just, that Treaty 6 may just be for the signatories of that treaty, but it's been interpreted by Indigenous people to apply to all status Indians in Canada. And so there are many gaps in services, and of course, the devil is always in the details, so we need to see the draft legislation before we can comment on it further. But there was a discussion about what the gaps were and about the treaty right to health, the human right to health. The demographics of health for First Nations people is still way below the standards of other Canadians. And there's a lot of social determinants of health, poverty being one of them, the lack of housing, high rates of diabetes, cancer, heart disease, a number of things, and Health Canada has statistics on all of that. So I attended that meeting, and I was a presenter, and so they will cover the expenses. We had a meeting on the 6th and 7th during the meeting on the First Nations water legislation that's under discussion. The discussion closes on March the 19th. They tabled it on the Friday just before the weekend, and but there's a 30-day discussion period. There's been the FN has had meetings with discussing the shortcomings of the legislation. So has the chiefs of Ontario. But I would like our council to have a meeting on that to discuss any concerns that we might have. I think most of the concerns have been caught by all of the participants in the discussion, but the biggest thing is the certainty about the funding. And we maintain that the government is responsible 100% for the operation and maintenance of safe drinking water facilities on reserve for all of our members. And for the capital costs of construction of water lines and maintaining the plant. Also, fair salaries was raised, and pension benefits for the operators, that it's what the norm is, and also the insurance provisions have to be looked at with the liability issues that arise from operating a water treatment plant. So it has to be set up. There's going to be a water commission set up by Canada. We don't really know what that looks like yet. Questions were raised about inspection. There has to be independent inspection to ensure that there's compliance, and there has to be regular reporting. We suggested quarterly reporting to council, similar to what we get under our current Aqua agreement. So there was a lot of discussion, and the other thing about the insurance, whether or not a First Nation community can have an agreement with Canada, they can get insurance if the design of their outdated plants don't meet the regulatory standards. Well, can they be insured? Was a question that was raised, because the Burnside study of 2008 looked at it. 2018 rather looked at it, and there was a number of plants that don't meet the current regulatory standards for Ontario, and Ontario has a high degree of standards in regulation 0170, and so we need to that's what we are currently operating under, and what the federal regulations would look like have yet to be developed, so we don't know whether that's going to be adequate or whether it's going to fall short of the Ontario standards. So First Nations were to have to go by the Canadian drinking water guidelines as a minimum standard, or they could go with the First Nations approximate. And so I maintain that we should be achieving the highest standards, not just meeting minimum standards, because quite often the Canadian drinking water guidelines are lagging behind everybody else. And so the provincial ministers of the environment only meet usually once or twice a year. And I don't know how rigorous the recommendations are, but we did make a recommendation that there be a few years ago that there be a 1,4-dioxin testing done, and so that was put in there to have a minimum standard. It was I think 5 milligrams, something like that they put in. But again, it falls short of the other jurisdictions. So that was pretty much the flavor of that discussion, and I'm sure there'll be another meeting prior to. But once the legislation is still drafted, we can still ask to go before the committee and address any concerns. So we need to have a meeting with our operators. Liz did attend the meeting with me at the water legislation meeting at draft review by the Chiefs of Ontario on Friday and on Thursday rather, and there weren't too many chiefs attending. I think there was only 2 of us there. But there is a big issue about the water treatment plants. Ours is fairly new, and so it meets all the regulatory standards, but again, everything wears out, and we want to make sure that we have that it's a mandatory service that the federal government must pay for, even though they have legislation. Another government can still rescind or amend the act. Future governments, we don't want it to be based on whatever's in the budget. These things have to be maintained to a proper standard to ensure the health and safety of the people. So and tomorrow I'll be chairing the Chiefs Committee on Housing and Infrastructure. I did send over my my speaking notes for my presentation to the Chiefs in Assembly last fall to Chris and to Ira and Jeff, and so they were going to circulate that to the attendees as well. But there is a very huge backlog in Ontario. About 1/3 of the houses need major repairs. And, you know, there's millions and millions of dollars required. And so I suggested that the chiefs get on with the lobby work that needs to be done to make a case for additional funding and to get more information about what the AF and ask will be. But the shortfall, according to the study that was done, was $60 billion nationally. Ontario needed $4.4 billion for housing and infrastructure, and Canada's budget 2022 only provided $3 billion when 60 was needed. So there's a lot of issues with mold and overcrowding, and 1/3 of the houses, some 8,000 houses, are needed in the province of Ontario. So that's the update there. The next item on the agenda is the tobacco agreement with Ontario. We normally don't sign to administer it, and so I would presume that it's going to be the same as it was last year, a decline signing the agreement. If you sign, you can get more quota if you agree to police it, but we didn't feel that we had the resources to police this. And it really is to ensure that non-natives who are not tax exempt are not getting the tobacco. That's really what the agreement is about. So we just have a community quota, and we just identify to the ministry who is recognized by council to sell that tobacco. Stacia?
Chief, just on the item previously, I believe that agenda item is to pass a motion for you to attend those meetings.
Oh,
I don't
yes.
think there are any
Yeah.
motions that exist for those.
Yes, we do need a motion. Do I have a motion?
And just noting that these meetings took place, so
I'll move, Chief.
there's no.
Chris? Who will second it? Josh? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Okay, the tobacco agreement. So the letter has been received for 2023-24 allocation of tax exempt tobacco, along with the retail agreement. In the past, the Mohawk Council has declined to sign the agreement. Mohawks of the Bay Quinte have then become eligible for a lesser amount of the tobacco exempt tobacco. And the Tyendinaga Mohawk, the recommendation is to maintain the same stance as previous councils, that the Mohawk Council decline to sign the agreement and accept the tax exempt tobacco allocation of 148,193 cartons per year. Is there a motion?
I'll move, Chief.
Moved by Chris
No, I can second.
and seconded by Stacia. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Housing, is council ready to rescind the motion concerning the 5 houses that were being proposed to be built on Upper Slash Road?
Chief, I move to rescind the motion. We've identified alternative sites, and in addition to the other sites being Tom Palace's former lot, we had other sites developed, and I met with Tech probably a week ago, and it does not appear to be any reason why we cannot put the other 2 homes at the end of Wellness Drive in the existing residential development behind us. There is capacity at the peatland system. And the sooner we max out that peatland system, I believe it'll help the lobby effort to get our own sewage treatment plant.
Is there a seconder for Chris's motion? To rescind the motion and to, I guess, build the houses, the 5 houses on the sites that you identified?
Well, we've already identified, I think, Norway's for 2, Tom Palace's former lot for 1, and the other 2 could go at the end of Wellness.
Okay.
As I said, Tech did not appear to have an issue with going there, and then we don't have the issue of the NIMBY issue.
Okay. Is there a seconder for the motion? Is there a seconder for Chris's motion?
It's a seconder to rescind existing motion.
Yeah, the previous motion was to build them on Upper Slash Road. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seeing none, the motion is there's no seconder. So if there's no seconder, the decision still is the location that's been
Chief, I
identified.
just got a comment on that. I'm always under the impression that we weren't to make any decisions without that group's presence being here. I thought that's what they asked for. So I do have my own ideas of what I'd like to
Okay,
move forward with, but I'd rather have them here.
Okay.
Because we had already promised them that we wouldn't make a decision unless they're here. So, as far as
so
that
then
goes,
is there a motion to defer it then?
well, I don't know.
Meeting.
I'm not sure why it's even on here yet because, like I said, I'm still waiting for something to come back from housing out on another site. And as far as wellness, I didn't remember wellness being on that. So I'd like to see some supporting material from tech and housing on that site as well. So before I make any final decision to rescind or to build elsewhere. So
Okay, well, are you moving to defer it then for that information?
I guess I
Okay.
can do it. Yeah, I'll move to defer.
Well, is there a seconder?
I wouldn't mind discussion before we make certain motions.
Okay.
so.
Okay, Chris, then Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. I believe the decision to, if council decides to build on the slash, I believe the decision was made that they would tell those folks to them if the decision is made to build on the slash next door to these folks. But if council agrees to build these remaining 2 within the existing residential development at Wellness, well, then it's a moot issue for them to have to come back and tell them.
Okay. Josh?
You mentioned that more of a clarification, so infrastructure has waited on that. Has housing been involved in that?
I'm sorry?
Has housing been aware of that? Like has,
I don't know. You'd have to ask Tom. I just know that we've been going around and around with potential sites, and I went over to the wellness site. I see vacant lots. I come back, I talk to tech, and I'm like, why are we not building right here? We developed this for residential, and there didn't seem to be any issues as to
Yeah.
why not there. So I am okay with what you're suggesting, but again, I'd like to know why we're not building it within an existing residential development that we've earmarked for that purpose.
Okay, these houses have to be built and finished by the end of October, so we have to allow the staff time to
Yep.
get on with the work they need to do to make sure they can meet that deadline. So, Josh?
I would say if we're talking about allowing staff the time, I would think it would be wise to include the director of housing for certain discussions or
Yeah.
assessments or input prior to motions being made at council to build on otherwise not mentioned sites. And I will state again for the record that as we're talking about identified buildable, feasible lots, that also includes the one that was identified on Slash Road. So
Mhm.
as we're talking about previously identified, I still include that location in that,
Yeah.
I guess, designation.
Well, that until that motion is rescinded, that is the direction of council
So
to build there.
I know we've had, I guess, agreements, or at least mutual understanding at the table that the Paulus site, the couple on Norway's, I would have to see if there was actually a motion made to go through with that.
Yeah, Tom did mention to council when he was here that those were suitable sites as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, and that's what I said. I think the only purpose for that Paulus lot that was ever mentioned before was for a residence.
Mhm.
So if there's an opportunity to place a residence on that property, then let's do that.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
there's already a water and sewer connection
Exactly.
there.
That's why when it was acquired, that was what it was earmarked for was. So if that's all it's ever going to be, then let's square peg, square hole that one. My point being that I don't know if the original motion to build X amount of houses on Slash was ever rescinded or at least amended to give that direction for those, of which I would recommend we do. If that's what if that's the route we're gonna take, leaving, how many outstanding would that be, 2 or 3?
I think there's a question of 2 left. I think Norway Side Road was also,
Identified.
yeah.
Two.
But still, we haven't made any decisions at all until we have all the information.
Yeah, yeah.
So as far as these 2 on wellness, if it comes back favorable, well, there's probably no reason why not to. But my understanding being here was that the peatland system is at capacity and over capacity. So that we're getting mixed messages here with that. So that's why we need evidence, right? We need that to come forward from tech and housing to say, yeah, this is fine, this is acceptable. Because I don't even know if there's enough even like hydro. I don't know if it's at capacity there with the transformer sitting there or not. I don't know. So that stuff has to be investigated and looked at.
My understanding with the peatland system was that it does need to be, it needs capital investment and well over $1 million.
Oh, it's probably double that.
Maybe
now.
$2 million. But anyway, I'm going to be talking to Nicole Paul and Michael O'Byrne to see if there's any lapsing capital. If we get that started before the end of March, we can we get access some of that lapsing capital? I've sent him a list of things that we need that are capital related to see if we can obtain some of that lapsing money. But one of the items that I recall was that Tom was going to look into building a couple of houses on Upper Slash, but further west, near where the existing houses are. And I don't think we did ever get any information back about that
Not yet.
part of it.
That was we're waiting on that as well. So.
So some outstanding questions,
Yep.
outstanding information that we're waiting for.
So then I guess it's been moved by Ted to defer this issue until the next council. And I understand that Tom is still on holidays, on vacation. So when he gets back from vacation, maybe we'll have that information. Okay, it's been moved by Ted. Is there a seconder for Ted's motion to defer it?
I can second that.
Okay. Just keep in mind, though, that Upper Slash Road is the identified site until you rescind that motion. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, deferred. Take out your calendars. The upcoming meetings are March the 15th, 7 p.m. Council local business, March the 22nd, March the 29th, April 5th is regular council. April the 12th is local business. April 19th is regular council. April 26th is local business. Just note that. We've already passed motions to support those dates. We have motions for all those dates, Shelley, so I'll just put noted then. Sometimes with the motion, the meetings I have to attend, I don't know if we're going to have quorum for our meetings until the people respond. And sometimes they're not responding until a couple of days before the meeting, so you don't know whether the meeting is going to proceed or not. So we have to still press our committee members how important it is to respond to the emails on a timely basis. So the last year, the Dragon Fest, which is sponsored by Jason Doreen from Turtle Island Park, they're proposing to have this mud bog event from May the 19th to the 22nd at 615 Wyman's Road. And I did check with the police. He said last year they were very well organized. They had emergency taken into emergencies with police and ambulance, and it was well organized and well run. That the police didn't have any concerns about hosting it again this year. I just spoke to Jason about it this morning. So is there a motion then to approve this? And they have applied for a liquor license.
Chief, you said the police are okay? They have no issues?
The police said they didn't have any concerns with it.
I'll move, Chief.
Why, Chris? And I guess they intend to donate any profit to the TTO and the food bank.
Yeah, I can second.
Is anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Now, it's 10:05. It's a little time to go on. It's too early to go on a break. Can we have a motion to go in private? Or would you rather take your break now?
That's a great question. I think with the transition between moving from public to private, maybe we should have a break. If I don't know if staff might need to do some technical
Okay, then
items.
we'll take a 10-minute break then. We'll come back and we'll go in private. just give me the how you, okay. Can I have a motion to go in private? Stacia? Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Ted? Is anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried.